Today, I want to talk to you guys about one of the core practices towards following Jesus. And this is really important whether you're a Christian or not, because this thing, as I talk about it, you're going to think to yourself, man, Justin, I already do this, bro. But as you think about it more and more, you're going to begin to think that, oh, actually, this thing is actually very difficult. Although I want to do this thing, it feels very unnatural, and I'm not as good at it as I want to be. And this thing that we're going to be talking about is the topic of forgiveness. Now, forgiveness is this really strange thing. I remember in grade 7, I was engaged in a full-on prank war with one of my friends. I'd prank him, then a couple days later, he would prank me back, and it was like a battle going back and forth. But then there was this 2-week period where I had pranked him, and he wasn't pranking me back. So I kind of deemed myself the king of all pranks. I thought I was the man or whatever. And then one day he comes up to me in class and he walks up to me and he's like, hey bro, are you ever gonna prank me back? I'm kind of taken back, what do you mean? I thought I pranked you last. And he's like, well, did you find that thing in your locker? And instantly I'm like, oh no. Because let's back it up a little bit. About a week prior to this, my locker had begun to start smelling really bad, really, really stinky. And I'm in grade 7, I'm in gym class, so I kind of thought maybe I was just like a stanky guy or whatever, or maybe puberty or I don't know. But now I'm freaking out, right? So I put my hand up and I'm like, hey teacher, can I go to the bathroom or whatever? And I run out there and I'm digging through my locker trying to find something. And I reach up on that top shelf of my locker and I'm feeling around and I feel it. There's a plastic bag up there. And there's something squishy inside of it. And I don't know what it is, but it stinks in this locker, right? So I pull it out and I get hit with a wall of stank. This is disgusting. I'm gagging in the hallway because there is a moldy tuna fish sandwich in my locker. It's green and mushy and disgusting. Already tuna fish sandwiches, they smell gross and I don't want them. Meh, that's yucky. But now there's a moldy one sitting in my locker. He has taken this too far. Our prank war before this was little pranks. I don't even know. I'm stealing stuff from his desk or whatever. And now he leaves us I'm gonna die. This is stinky. Everyone probably thinks I'm this stinky guy or whatever. There's a moldy sandwich. And all I can think in this moment is that he needs to pay for this. Someone's got to pay for this, right? So I take this moldy tuna fish sandwich and I walk over to his locker. I lift the lock away from his locker and I just merge this moldy sandwich with his lock and I mush them together. I zip up the Ziploc bag and I leave it hanging there outside of his locker. And that might be too gross or too far or whatever, but this was a pretty natural response because in life, when somebody does something wrong to you, when somebody mistreats you or when somebody pranks you or maybe even when somebody hurts you, you naturally will want to get even with them. Somebody has to pay for this thing. That is our natural response. So think about it. When somebody hits you, you want to hit them back. When somebody pranks you, you want to prank them back. When somebody makes fun of you, you want to shame them on social media and get them canceled because we want to get even. We want these people to pay. So as we go through this message, as I'm talking about this idea of forgiveness and revenge, I just want you guys to pause for a second and think about this. Who are the people in your life who have wronged you? Who has hurt you? Who are those people that have mistreated you? Pause and think about it. Maybe for you, it's a parent that abandoned you or left you. Maybe for you, it's an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend that just really, really hurt you in some way. Or maybe for you, it's just somebody at school that bullied you or somebody that made fun of you on social media. And ask yourself this. If revenge were possible, who would be the people on your list? Now, this idea of revenge is closely associated with the idea of forgiveness, right? And when we're talking about forgiveness, we need to understand that the Bible is talking about forgiveness all over the place. Jesus is talking about this over and over and over again. This is a core practice for him. And this word to forgive in the Bible, the most basic meaning that we need to understand is this idea to release something or to let go of something. And more specifically, it means to let go of somebody's debt. So for example, let's say you bought a new piece of technology, let's just say you bought a brand new iPhone and you let one of your friends hold it and watch a video on it or whatever, and they drop it and it shatters on the floor into a million pieces. Right there's a debt. Somebody has to pay for this broken phone. So there's 2 ways that you can go about covering this debt. Either the person that just dropped your phone can pay that debt and cover it themselves, they can pay what they owe. Or you can do the more unnatural thing. For some reason, you could say, no, it's okay. I'll take the hit on this one. Don't worry about it. And you can absorb the debt yourself. You can absorb it. So don't worry about it. I got this one. That is the picture of forgiveness in the Bible. This is forgiveness, to release something or to let go of something, to release somebody from a debt. And this is a core practice of Jesus. This is not natural, right? That makes no sense. You got to pay for it. You broke it. What's that? You pranked me, I'm going to prank you. You break my phone, I'm going to break your phone. Something that is more natural for us. But this is the way of following Jesus. And there's one section in the New Testament that really, really captures this idea. Matthew chapter 18, it starts like this. Then Peter came up and said to him, Lord, how often will my brother sin against me and I forgive him? As many as 7 times? And Jesus said to him, I do not say to you 7 times, but 77 times. So in this culture, well, one thing that we need to understand is they kind of had like a 3 strikes and you are out rule when it came to forgiveness. So you can mess up once, forgiveness. Twice, forgiveness. 3 times, forgiveness. And the 4th time, it's over. You like karate chop that person or like end them or whatever. You no longer have to forgive after the 3rd time. So Peter here, when he proposes 7 times, he's being like really generous, like if we're being honest, right? Like that's like more than double like what it was previously. It's pretty good. Like think about that. Like think about it really. Right? 7 times forgiveness? Like somebody could break your iPhone 7 times and you're just like chill about it. Like it's okay, I'm Peter. And then it's all good. 8th time, boom, it's over, right? So Jesus actually counters Peter and he says, no, Peter, not 7 times, 77 times. But Jesus, like he isn't being literal here. That would be like completely ridiculous. He isn't asking you to make like an Excel spreadsheet with all the tallies of rights and wrongs that people do. And when you get to 77, you just like lose it and go bananas or like whatever. That's not what he's doing. He's speaking with hyperbole here. And essentially what he's saying is that you are meant to be a people that are forgiving always. You must always forgive. Forgiving is unlimited. You continuously forgive. You forgive over and over and over again. So if you were a person sitting out there, if you're a Christian, and you were asking, what type of person does Jesus want me to be? The answer is right here. He wants you to be a forgiving person. Somebody that forgives continuously. Somebody that forgives without limit. But let's face it. This level of forgiveness is completely unnatural, right? It doesn't make sense. The world tells us that if somebody hits you, you hit them back. If somebody does wrong to you, you do wrong to them back. You seek out revenge. So this doesn't make any sense. So Jesus goes ahead and he tells us a story or a parable to help us make sense of this. And this is what it says. Therefore, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wished to settle accounts with his servants. When he began to settle, one was brought to him who owed him 10,000 talents. And since he could not pay, his master ordered him to be sold with his wife and his children and all that he had, and payments to be made. So the servant fell on his knees, imploring him, have patience with me. I will pay you everything. And out of pity for him, the master of that servant released him and forgave him the debt. So 10,000 talents, you might not really know what that is. It's not like 10,000 little skills or anything. It's a weight or a measurement of money. And 10,000 talents is essentially, it's an unpayable debt. This is like an absurd amount of money. This is like years and years and decades of work. This is billions and billions and billions of dollars. Essentially, like, Jesus is kind of being funny and ridiculous here, but he's saying this is an unpayable debt. Like there is an unpayable debt that the servant owes the king. And the scenario here would be kind of like a minimum wage Starbucks employee, like a barista making caramel macchiatos on the daily, owing like a billionaire tech tycoon like Elon Musk $1 billion or multiple billions of dollars. Like it's unpayable. It's just never going to happen. But then out of nowhere, the king or the billionaire says, no, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I will take the hit on this one. Don't worry about it. I will pay the billions of dollars. This impossible debt that you owe me, I'm going to cover it. Imagine the joy. Imagine like the weight being lifted off your shoulders, the release that this person must be feeling. Let's keep reading. It says, but when the same servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii. And seizing him, he began to choke him, saying, pay what you owe. So his fellow servant fell down and pleaded with him, have patience with me and I will pay you. He refused and went and put him in prison until he should pay the debt. When his fellow servants saw what had taken place, they were greatly distressed, and they went and reported to their master all that had taken place. So a denarii was like a day's wage, and he owes him a lot of denarii, so this is like a couple months worth of work. But the difference here, right, that's a payable debt. The difference here is one was impossible and one was payable. One is like billions of dollars, and one is a couple $100. So the king in the story is willing to pay off this impossible debt. He's willing to offer forgiveness. But then that exact same servant who just experienced this amazing level of forgiveness goes up to his buddy and he chokes him out, right? He chokes him out and he tells him that he needs to pay up this much smaller debt. There's no other choice. He was just forgiven, experiences this amazing forgiveness, but he's not willing to do the same thing. And I think this is where it becomes very real for all of us. This is unforgiveness. Because don't we do the exact same thing? We don't pay a debt for somebody else. We expect them to pay that debt. I mean, they've wronged us, they've hurt us, they've mistreated us, they've done all of these things to us, and they need to pay. I need my revenge. I need to get even. But at this very same time, it is totally okay for us to continuously sin against God and expect him to keep forgiving us, as though his forgiveness didn't cost him anything. Your sin is a big deal. The cost of your sin is this impayable debt. It's an impossible debt for you to pay. So if you're a person that's sitting there and you're thinking that maybe your sin is not that big of a deal, you need to begin asking yourself, then why did Jesus have to die in the first place? Your sin's a big deal. You owe an impossible debt to God. See, this guy just experienced a radical level of forgiveness, but he still wants to get even. He still wants his revenge. And how many people are there in your life that you just don't want to forgive? Think about that. The story continues. Then his master summoned him and said to him, "You wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt because you pleaded with me. And should not you have had mercy on your fellow servant as I had mercy on you?" And in anger, his master delivered him to the jailers until he should pay all his debt. So also my heavenly Father will do to every one of you if you do not forgive your brother from your heart. So in this parable, if you haven't caught this so far, God is portrayed as master and we as people are the servants. It's not the other way around. And God has forgiven us of this impossible debt, yet we are not willing to forgive others all the time of much, much lesser debts. And God says, if you act like this, then you are probably a person that does not understand the level to which you have already been forgiven. You see, because forgiven people are meant to be forgiving people. If you've been forgiven by God, you are meant to respond in the same way by forgiving others around you. Now, forgiveness does not mean that we forget the things that have happened to us. Forgiveness does not mean we ignore the wrong things that are happening to us. Forgiveness does not mean we condone the sin that is happening to us. Forgiveness does not mean that we excuse other people's wrong behavior. But forgiveness does mean that we release people. We let them go of the debt that they owe us, and we do not seek to get revenge. So what's the point? The point is that someone who does not grant forgiveness to others is probably someone that does not understand the level to which they have already been forgiven. And this is a big deal, because if you are a follower of Jesus, you need to first see yourself as someone who has already been forgiven an impossible debt. You had an impossible debt because of your sin, and you have been forgiven. This puts you in a completely different position where, yes, you will still get hurt. Yes, you are still going to get mistreated in life. Yes, you will still be wrong, but you will no longer be able to refuse forgiveness to anybody. Because of your forgiveness that you have received, you need to directly respond differently to other people by offering the same level of forgiveness to them. And C.S. Lewis says this, listen to this, to be a Christian means to forgive the inexcusable because God has forgiven the inexcusable in you. Let that sink in. God has forgiven the inexcusable in you. And guys, the reality is it will always be super difficult. It's always going to be impossible for you to forgive others unless you begin to realize the extent to which you have already been forgiven. Do you know the extent to which Jesus had to go to forgive you? You must forgive others because you have been forgiven. And the beautiful thing is that Jesus and all of this, like this feels impossible, this feels like a hard task for us, but he is not asking you to do anything that he himself is not already willing to do. Luke chapter 23, listen to this. 2 others who were criminals were led away to be put to death with him, with Jesus. And when they came to the place that is called the skull, there they crucified him. And the criminals, one on his right and one on his left, and Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." And they cast lots to divide his garments. Please feel the weight of this. Jesus is an innocent victim. He's going through an immense amount of violence. He's literally being murdered, nailed to a cross. Yet he prays that God would forgive the people that are doing this to him. Feel the weight of this. Not only that, but the people that are doing this to him don't even care, right? They continue to humiliate him. They aren't even sorry. They are gambling away his clothes. So Jesus here, in this moment, he is taking away all of your excuses towards unforgiveness. All of them. When they insulted him, he did not insult them back. When they spit on him, he did not spit back. When they hit him, he did not hit back. He endured the cross for you and for me. And how does he respond? He says, "Father, forgive them." Let that sink in. Jesus is walking the talk, and he is asking us to do the exact same thing. Jesus is saying, I'm going to forgive you, not just when I want to, not just when it feels good, not just when it's convenient for me. I'm going to forgive you always, continuously, over and over and over again. And that is what he's asking for us to do to others. So the only way that you can become a person who would forgive an infinite amount of times is first, you must come to the place where you understand that you have already been forgiven an infinite amount of times. This is what Jesus has done for you. Every single day you wake up, and when you sin, you do something wrong against Jesus, and because of the cross, because of his death and his resurrection, he chooses to forgive you. And now he is calling you to go out and to show the same type of love, the same type of forgiveness to all of those people around you. So my encouragement in all of this is that we would be a people that would move one step closer to the ways of Jesus. To have this mindset that I'm not going to keep score of right and wrong. I will not seek revenge. I'm going to forgive people endlessly, continuously, over and over and over again, because this is the same level of forgiveness that God has already showed me through Jesus. So that's all that we have for you guys today when it comes to revenge and forgiveness, and I hope that gives you lots to think about. I hope you guys have a great discussion, and we will see you guys next week.